What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. I'm going to continue my conversation with you concerning the complete history of boxing. This conversation will last about 5 minutes. I'm going to jump right in and talk about a very tragic story that took place on the evening of June 24th, 1947, in Cleveland, Ohio. It was for the World Welterweight Championship belt. The participants was the fifth black welterweight champion in boxing history, Harlem, New York's Sugar Ray Robinson. Now, Ray Robinson was originally from Alley, Georgia. His family would move to Detroit, Michigan. There he would meet Joe Louis. And then he would reside in Harlem, New York. He would win the Golden Gloves and he would turn professional. He would win all but 40 bouts before he met Jake LaMotta. They would settle their differences. Ray Robinson was to fight for the welterweight championship title in 1942. Marty Servo would defeat Freddie Red Cochrane. Cochrane wanted no part of Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson would defeat Marty Servo twice. But Ray Robinson never received a shot at the welterweight championship title. That didn't happen until after the war in 1946. And Ray Robinson would become the number one contender, which he was before the war, but now it had to be honored. Marty Servo would meet with Rocky Graziano, who ironically would fight for the middleweight championship title in 1946 against Tony Zale. And Marty Servo would suffer a broken nose when he faced Graziano. And when it was time to face Ray Robinson, he decided to hang up the gloves. He didn't want to deal with Ray Robinson. He lost to Ray Robinson twice before, had the business handed to him the second time, and he had enough. So Ray Robinson would now become recognized as the welterweight claimant champion. So he would face Youngstown, Ohio's Tommy Bell because other welterweights were offered the opportunity. Tippy Larkin and Bo Jack, just to name of two. They both rejected the opportunity. And so Youngstown, Ohio, Tommy Bell would answer the call. He had a younger brother, Bobby Bell. It was three brothers combined. He also had a sister. But Tommy Bell was the fighter. And what was interesting about Tommy Bell, now when I say the fighter, Bobby Bell was a fighter also, but the man to look to bring home the championship would be Tommy Bell. He was born March 3rd, 1923 in Youngstown, Ohio. He died July 14th, 1994. He was 71 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Georgia. Now, Georgia was a state where many great fighters would be birthed, many of them, Ray Robinson included. Tommy Bell fought from 1942 to 1951. He had a total bout career of 87 bouts, 53 wins, 32 knockouts. He faced Cecil Hudson May 6, 1946 and lost on points. July 29, 1946, Bell defeated California's Jackie Wilson in 10 rounds. Again, September 27, 1946, Bell would face Cecil Hudson and he would win in 10 rounds. Ray Robinson, on the other hand, he faced Cecil Hudson November 1st, 1946 and knocked him out. Defeated Artie Levine November 6, 1946. And he stopped him in 10 rounds. He would take on Ozzie Bulldog Harris, November 6, 1946. Now, the opponents that both Tommy Bell and Ray Robinson would be up against was Jake LaMotta, California Jackie Wilson. Ray Robinson faced Jackie Wilson, 1943, between the bouts of Ray Robinson's toughest opponent up until that point, and that was Jake LaMotta. Now, why I'm bringing up Tommy Bell is because that fight would create a moment in Harlem because Ray Robinson would now become the 5th black welterweight champion in boxing history. And he was celebrated all over the world. But Harlem had a precious jewel on their hands. Wasn't since Harry Smith, the Harlem Thunderbolt, in 1929, when he would defeat the Pride of Harlem, Jack McVeigh, Julius Williams, to win that honor. He would become the colored middleweight champion, and he was just as celebrated as Ray Robinson was. Well, when we look at Artie Levine was a very hard puncher, and why I'm bringing his name up, very important. Because Artie Levine is the boogeyman in this conversation. What are we talking about? Well, let's start with June 24th, 1947, where Ray would defeat Jimmy Doyle. He would stop him in 9 rounds, Cleveland Arena. He would retain his welterweight championship title. The referee was Jackie Davis. As I said, it would be Ray Robinson's first welterweight championship title defense. And Ray Robinson had a premonition before the bout that he would hit Jimmy Doyle with a left hook specifically. And Ray Robinson stated that Jimmy Doyle died in the ring. This happened the evening before. He spoke to a Catholic priest and a minister, and they urged him not to pull out of the fight. Because, see, everyone had money on Ray Robinson. Doesn't matter what your faith was, your religion was, your political agenda. Everyone gambled, and they had their money on Ray Robinson. He could not pull out of the fight. So the trust that he had in his faith led him to continue with the bout, although he knew in his mind's eye this was not the right time or place to mix it up with another man. Why he had this premonition and sparring Pumpkin Lakes, he hit a man with a left hook, one of the sparring partners. And that sparring partner was out cold for 5 minutes. And Ray didn't like the way the sparring partner looked. He was like a statue. He didn't move. Eventually he came to, and he just didn't want to fight. And he was urged to fight. And on that evening, unfortunately for Ray Robinson, who had this premonition that this was going to happen, would unfortunately experience something that he would forever suffer from. And he would hit Jimmy Doyle with a triple left hook combination. The second one snapped the head back of Doyle. Third one caught him on the chin on the way down. And Doyle hit the canvas like a sack of potatoes. Now, Ray Robinson was a 3-1 favorite. He brung in a crowd of 11,275 spectators. They would combine $36,841 for this contest. Ray Robinson stood 5 foot 11 inches, weighed 146 pounds, and had a 72.5-inch reach. Fought from 1940 to 1965. Had a total bout career up until that point of 78 wins, 1 loss to Jake LaMotta, 1 draw, and 52 knockouts. He earned $25,000 in this contest. Jimmy Doyle was 22 years old. Ray Robinson was 26. Jimmy Doyle was 22. He stood 5 foot 7 inches, weighed 147 pounds, and had a 72.5-inch reach. He fought from 1941 to 1947. The evening of that bout is when he passed away. He earned $11,841. He had a record of 42 wins, 6 losses, 3 draws, and 14 knockouts. Now, who was Jimmy Doyle? His name was James Emerson Delaney. He was born August 1st, 1924 in Los Angeles, California. He died June 25th, 1947. He was 22 years of age at the time of his arrest. and he would rest in Los Angeles, California. Now he fought from 1941 to 1947. Very interesting years. Lost the fight May 5th, 1947. Technical knockout to George Bradford. Why I said to you that Artie Levine was the boogeyman. Because 6 months before the bout with Ray Robinson, Artie Levine was in the ring with Jimmy Doyle. I told you before that Artie Levine was a devastating puncher. He could crack. Ray Robinson could attest to that. And he hit Jimmy Doyle. Jimmy Doyle was unconscious. He had a concussion. Wound up having a blood clot in his brain. This was from the Jimmy Doyle and Artie Levine bout 6 months before. And something told Ray not to get in that ring. But he was pressured through those who you would think would talk him out of the bout. He was talked into the bout. Catholic priests, ministers, of course, his manager, George Gangsford. It was a hot ticket, 3-1. And he would land a triple left hook combination on Jimmy Doyle's neck and chin. And Doyle was out. Once Ray realized that Jimmy Doyle died, he offered Jimmy Doyle's mother $50 a month, combining $6,000 for 10 years. And that was a fund for Jimmy Doyle, created by Ray Robinson. Because Ray felt guilty for recognizing in his mind's eye that something tragic would happen, and he allowed himself to be convinced to fight anyway. Doyle was carried from ringside to Charity Hospital. He was operated on by Dr. Spencer Braden, who was a Cleveland brain specialist. Doyle would die 3 minutes and 25 seconds after this procedure was completed. And ironically, 3 o'clock, 3:25 p.m., the exact same time as the amount of time it took for Ray Robinson to be told after Jimmy Doyle's surgery was completed. 3:25, remember that number. Very interesting how this story uncovers itself. Now, Artie Levine was in a ring with Jimmy Doyle 6 months prior. Reminds me of when Gene Foreman was in the ring 6 months prior to Benny Kid Paret, before Emil Griffith was in the ring with Benny Kid Paret, New York's Madison Square Garden in 1962. Reminds me of when Ezra Charles was in the ring in 1948 with a fighter who I actually admired, always. And his name was Sam Baruti. And 6 months before the Sam Baruti Ezra Charles bout, Bob Satterfield was in the ring with Sam Baruti. And he hit Sam Baruti. And Baruti went down and he was dizzy. Sam Baruti used to train in Stillman's gym. He was from Ohio. Got a lot of Ohio boys there, man, I'll tell you. A lot of great ones. Jimmy Bivens and Ezra Charles, Sammy Baruti. Joey Maxim, Harry Bobo, many of them. And Samba Rudy used to come in the gym. No history books. I'm telling you directly what happened. My father had the locker room. In the locker room, you had a lot of great fighters. Gavilan, Sandy Sadler, Samba Rudy. In that aisleway, they were all in the same aisleway as my dad. And Samba Rudy's locker was 3 lockers away from my dad. Jimmy Carter was behind him. And he would come into the gym because Stillman's gym, Lou Stillman, used to sit on a stool when you first walk up the steps. So you had to walk up the steps to Stillman's gym. It was on 8th Avenue. And when you walked up the steps, as soon as you walked in, there was a little table outside of the door. Right above the table was a little window. Ray Robinson used to stand on top of that table and he would look through the window. He never went in the gym. So the table was to sign in. And you would walk in, and right next to the doorway, Lou Stillman would be sitting on a stool where one leg was on the floor and the other one was on the step of the stool. And he would have a 45 on his left-hand side. He had a microphone, and he would be introducing the fighters that would be coming in the ring to spar. You had 2 rings side by side. I'm telling you this like yesterday. Dad used to tell me these stories all the time. And you had the press in the front row. So Samba Rudy used to come inside the gymnasium and he would yell, "I'm hitting hard today." And everybody knew Samba, everybody loved Samba Rudy. And he would come inside, he would stand around, look and see what's happening all around, case the place out. He would come in with a 3-piece suit, had the fedora hat, oh, he was sharp. And he would walk towards the locker room, and as he got to the locker room, he started backing up. He started backing up, and making sure he saw everything. Now, you had another set of steps, and that's where the locker room was. So he went in the locker room, he would change into his boxing attire, he would come out with the cup on, whether he was sparring or not. He was known for that. Come, hit the bag, and carry on, and everything else. When he was about to leave the gym, he would go back in the locker room, change, and come back out. And when he saw a huge crowd gathering around the ring, he wanted to see what the fuss was about. You see, Samba Rudy had an ego, and all those Ohio boys had egos, but Samba Rudy was one of them kind of guys where he wasn't afraid of anybody. He wanted you to understand that. So he would go watch the sparring, some kid from out of town, because Stillman's gym was the gym between, if you were to compare it to Gleason's gym. Gleason's gym is on 75 Front Street. Now it's 77 Front Street. I explained that in another video. And it's between the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge, right next to the Watchtower building. It's on Front Street. Well, that's the closest gym to